The US civil rights leader Jesse Jackson has died at the age of 84.
I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. And it wasn't born in you.
Remembered as a giant who changed the world, he fought for civil rights for decades and was famed for his iconic speeches.
I may be uneducated, but I am somebody. I am black, beautiful.
He died peacefully this morning, surrounded by his family, who said he'd left an indelible mark on history. Good afternoon. He was one of the world's best-known civil rights activists and a confidant of Martin Luther King. Jesse Jackson has died today at the age of 84. Reverend Jackson was present at Dr. King's assassination and went on to spend half a century campaigning for civil rights. He twice stood as a candidate for the US presidency, paving the way for the eventual success of Barack Obama. The Jackson family said he had elevated the voices of the voiceless, leaving an indelible mark on history. Here, the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy called him a pillar of the civil rights movement. Ellie Pitt looks back on a remarkable life.
But I am somebody. I am black, beautiful, proud. I must be respected.
His voice, his words, and his beliefs spoke to generations of black Americans.
Somebody!
Jesse Jackson grew up in South Carolina at a time when black and white Americans were segregated. A disciple of Martin Luther King, they were together at the motel where King was assassinated the day after this photo was taken. King's voice echoed through Jackson's campaigns for more job opportunities and better voting rights for African Americans.
I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. And it wasn't born in you, and you can make it.
In the 1980s, he fought for the Democratic nomination in 2 presidential elections. He didn't win, but mobilized millions of black voters. And he remained an influential figure through the Clinton and Obama presidencies. In 2008, he was brought to tears at Barack's victory where he could not succeed. His legacy is global, and his work brought him to London, where his politics resonated with black British men and women.
It showed me as a young man that actually I've got something to do. It's not enough just to sit around and do nothing and complain, and he inspired so many people. And I tell you something, even those generations that didn't know him in the way that we had contact with him, you know, his legacy will hit them in decades to come and inspire them in decades to come too.
We're very pleased to welcome, of course, the iconic civil rights campaigner and twice Democratic candidate. Before I fall off.
In more recent years, he spoke of the tug of war for the soul of America.
A lot of racial polarization in the country and an unusual level of ideological, not just a political split in the country.
And despite his Parkinson's diagnosis, he was never far from the political arena. His family said he died peacefully this morning as a servant leader to the voiceless around the world. They urged others to honour his memory by continuing to fight for the values he lived by.
Civil rights campaigner Jesse Jackson, who's died at the age of 84.
The Reverend Jesse Jackson, the famed civil rights leader who marched alongside Martin Luther King Jr. and later ran for president, has died. His family has confirmed he was 84. He died peacefully on Tuesday morning, surrounded by his family, they said in a statement. Aleem Maqbool looks back at his life.
November 2008, Barack Obama and a moment of history. In the crowd, the tear-stained face of a man who'd done much to pave the way. The Reverend Jesse Jackson.
It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, change has come to America.
Born to a teenage single mother in Greenville, South Carolina, Jesse Jackson grew up in a world where black and white were legally segregated. In 1959, he won a football scholarship to university, but threw himself into the civil rights struggle that was engulfing America.
And there's a great swell of cheers to welcome Martin Luther King.
Under the leadership of Martin Luther King. Reverend King sent the young Baptist minister to Chicago to organise protests. On marches, the two men faced violent crowds opposed to the movement. Then, in Memphis, Martin Luther King was murdered in front of Jackson. The assassin was later arrested, having fled the country, but Jackson was never convinced he'd been working alone.
This man could not have stalked Dr. King, had the logistical operation, had operative alternative passports, and got out of the country with money alone.
A powerful public speaker, Jackson continued the struggle.
But I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody.
In the 80s, he twice ran for president, but failed to win the Democratic Party nomination. But for the first time, a black man was a serious contender.
Our time has come. We must leave racial battleground and come to economic common ground and moral higher ground. America, our time has come.
On the international stage, he campaigned for a Palestinian state, creating a long rift with American Jews after some unguarded and offensive remarks. He persuaded Saddam Hussein to release human shields on the eve of the Iraq War. And as South Africa emerged from apartheid, the man who spent years maintaining American pressure against the system was there to watch.
What time is it?
From the 1960s to the election of Barack Obama, even to the Black Lives Matter movement of recent years, Jesse Jackson was a constant figure in American public life, determined to show generations of young black Americans they too could have a voice.
Well, our US partners CBS News are reporting that Jesse Jackson had been hospitalised for observation back in November. Doctors said he had been diagnosed with a degenerative condition. He had revealed in 2017 that he'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, which affects the nervous system, which slowly restricts movement and daily activities. But Jesse Jackson called it a physical challenge. He refused to let it prevent him from continuing his civil rights advocacy. His father, Nois Lewis Robinson Sr., who had Parkinson's, also died of the disease. He was 88. That was back in 1997. But Jesse Jackson had been suffering from some health conditions since he was hospitalised back in November, revealing a few years ago now that he is diagnosed with Parkinson's. Let's bring you the family statement that we have. They say it is with profound sadness that we announce the passing of civil rights leader and founder of the Rainbow Push Coalition, the Honourable Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr. He died peacefully on Tuesday morning, surrounded by his family. His unwavering commitment to justice, equality and human rights helped shape a global movement for freedom and dignity. A tireless change agent, he elevated the voices of the voiceless, from his presidential campaigns in the 1980s to mobilising millions to register to vote, leaving an indelible mark on history. Reverend Jackson, the statement goes on to say, is survived by his wife Jacqueline, their children Santita Jesse Jr., Jonathan, Yusuf, Jacqueline, daughter Ashley Jackson and grandchildren. He was preceded in death by his mother Helen Burns Jackson, father Noah Lewis Robinson and stepfather Charles Henry Jackson. And they go on to say, the family statement continues, our father was a servant leader not only to our family, but to the oppressed, the voiceless and the overlooked around the world. We shared him with the world, and in return the world became part of our extended family. His unwavering belief in justice, equality and love uplifted millions, and we ask you to honour his memory by continuing the fight for the values he lived by. So that is a statement from the Jackson family on the news that Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, has died at the age of 84.
Well, that breaking news that's just coming in, being confirmed by our partners NBC News in the United States, that the Reverend Jesse Jackson, a towering figure of the US civil rights movement, has died at the age of 84. It's been announced that Reverend Jesse Jackson passed away peacefully in Chicago. His family say surrounded by loved ones. Now, Jesse Jackson's career spanned at least 7 decades, going all the way back to the late 50s, early 1960s, when he was a protege of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He worked all the way through the 60s and 70s civil rights movements, those bus boycotts, those marches in Salem and other places, as he fought for black people in America to have the same rights as their white counterparts. Remember, this was a time when Jesse Jackson was working in those early days where there was effective segregation in the southern states of the United States. Black people weren't able to access schooling. Black people weren't even able to go to the same restaurants as white people. Black people had to sit on the back of buses. Reverend Jesse Jackson, along with people like Martin Luther King and others, fought for those changes, and the Reverend Jesse Jackson fought for those changes all the way through his career, passing away peacefully, we are told, at his home in Chicago earlier today. He was 84. He also came to greater national prominence in the 1980s. He ran twice unsuccessfully to be the Democratic nominee for president, once in 1984, and then perhaps more memorably, certainly for me anyway, in 1988, where he, for many people, stood out as a candidate whose perhaps time had come. There would be a black candidate put forward by the Democratic Party for president. Of course, that did not come to pass, and it was another over 15 years until the Democrats were able to put a black candidate forward for president. That man was Barack Obama, who, of course, went on to become president in 2008, historically. Now, Jesse Jackson's also known for his diplomacy, his international diplomacy. He worked for the release of US hostages in Syria. That was back in 1984, as well as in Cuba in the same year, as well as hostages held in Iraq in 1990 and people held in Yugoslavia back in 1999. He also served as the shadow US Senator for the District of Columbia, lobbying for statehood for the District of Columbia. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest honor in the United States, by President Bill Clinton for his works in the civil rights movement, as well as his humanitarian works. He was given that in the year 2000.